Okay, as you know, I am back for another Portable Clint. I have a very special guest. I know I always say that, but I've known this guy for a long time. I've always liked this guy. I like the way he talks. I like his dry wit. He's one of the funniest dudes I know. Bobby Peters, also known, let me say this, Robert Peters, but known to me as Bobby Peters. Get in here, dude.
Thank you.
Look at this. Look at that. Yay!
And for the record, only Bobby Peters to this
Right. And you know why I call you Bobby Peters, right?
Tell me again.
Because I've always wanted that Hollywood friend, like everyone's friends with Robert De Niro. They call him Bobby De Niro.
Right.
Bobby Duvall. That's what his friends call him. I wanted a Hollywood friend.
Redford.
Bob Redford.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I call you.
If only I was in that.
Well, you
Thank
are.
you for putting me there.
Yeah. But yeah, to me, you are.
But speaking of heroes or people in the Bob Newhart is my. If I had to give an inspiration for why I love this business, it's probably Bob Newhart.
Well, you picked a good one to love. I mean, how awesome is he? I mean, he's still working today, right?
And the master of dry.
I mean,
the driest of dry.
The driest of, yes. Yeah. I could see why you like him. All right.
And by the way, I'm wearing this because your wardrobe department gave this to me.
Well, yeah.
I just went through makeup.
Yeah.
And your crew is unreal.
Unreal.
I mean, everybody that I've met, I mean, obviously you're cinematographers. I think I've worked with, I know I've worked with some of these people before. Yeah. Craft service, catering, you know.
Well, thank you, man. I said, listen, I only want the best around me. And so I hope you feel that.
And how did you like potable Clint? I was adding to your portable Clint, potable.
Look at you.
For
Look
those
at
of
that.
you who don't know that word.
Okay.
It's a drink.
Oh, look at that. I didn't know that. All right. Listen, here's the way that I first knew you. How long do you think I've known you?
I can't remember.
Okay, but let's just kind of like 2000, where was it in 2000? I feel like it was still in the 90s when we met. Is that possible? When did you get out here? When did you?
Around 90. Around 90.
Okay.
Maybe a little before, and I was trying to remember where we met.
Well, here's the deal. Here's how I first knew about you. You did a Clint Eastwood movie called In the Line of Fire.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience, and then we'll move around after that.
Line of Fire is, to this day, really, it's one of my favorite experiences as an actor, and just favorite experiences in life. What happened was, when I first moved out here, it took me 2 or 3 years to get any kind of job, any kind of agent. I booked 2 movies the same week. One of them was Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, his first movie, which was Wilder Napalm, and the other was Chaplin.
Wilder Napalm, awesome movie. I enjoy that movie. Bill Paxton, right?
No, Wilder Napalm with Dennis Quaid, Deborah Winger.
Right. Arliss Howard.
Arliss Howard.
Okay, yeah.
It was a great film.
The Fire guys.
Glenn Gordon Caron directed it, who's the creator of Moonlighting. But it was Fire. Yeah, they're pyrokinetic. But Vince Gilligan, I knew when I read that script, it was just, I mean, and anyway. So, but back to The Line of Fire. So Chaplin. I had one day on Chaplin, but and then they brought me back for a couple days. But I became.
Wait, that's your first movie that you booked out here, Chaplin?
Got them the same week. Same week, I booked both those movies. And Chaplin, one of the ADs, a guy named Lee Cleary, who's a close friend of mine to this day, he and I became friends on that movie. So then, flash forward to when In the Line of Fire comes around, he's working as an AD on The Line of Fire, and. I call him and I say, listen, man, is there any way you can get me in for this deal? So he sends me the sides.
So it does pay to call people and bug them?
I'll tell you what pays is you never know where a job reference can come from. I mean, you and I, as actors, help each other. Obviously, you try to get in the you know, on the radar of a director or a producer, but sometimes it can be an assistant director, it can be the craft service guy, it can be anybody. And so in this case, you know, Lee was the second AD on the movie, but he got my stuff to the assistant, and there's a reason why I'm telling this story, because that I got the sides and I loved it, and it was a good old boy. I'm from Oklahoma, so it was a chance for me to
also tell them what you did in it, so they can remember it.
Well, what happened was when I got the job. Or no, before I got the job. So remember the casting company?
Yes.
Okay, they used to cast all the big movies.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I've rewritten the script, which is something most actors don't want to do. But I felt like, you know what?
Wait, what do you mean you rewrote their script?
Well, there's a few lines that
This is a Clint Eastwood movie that you're changing around.
Yeah, which is probably not smart, but again, it's early. Well, no, I would still do it to this day because I felt like this is a good. One of the lines was, "Do you mind if I shoot the gun?" And I said, "Do you mind if I give it a little dance?" Which is to me how a good old boy would say it.
Yes.
But what happened was when I'm sitting in the waiting room, this is what I hear before I go in. One of the casting directors says to the other cast director, she goes, "Who is he again?" She goes, "Oh, he knows somebody in production."
You overheard them talk about you.
Overheard. That was my introduction. Then it was like, "Robert, come on in." So I'm thinking, okay, I can let this get to me.
Right.
Or I can say, you know what, I'm going to do what I set out to do, which was make this guy come off the page, because it was such a great script. It's still, to me, one of the best scripts I've ever read.
Really?
And so I go in, I do my thing, and they were going to cast both those hunters. There were two hunters in the scene with John Malkovich. And Malkovich is really the reason I get the credit I get. But so they were going to hire both of them from New York, but my audition went so well, they brought me out, and the rest is history. Because I used to go in to auditions. It was one of those roles where you're so grateful for it, because you would walk in a room and they go, "Oh, you're the dude from In the Line of Fire."
Yes, it was such a great part. Tell them what the scene was, please.
Well, it's basically Malkovich plays an assassin, but they give him a whole great backstory that he used to work with the government, and he's gonna kill the president. Clint Eastwood plays an older Secret Service guy who's still trying to stay in with all the young, in shape Secret Service guys. So it becomes a mano-a-mano thing between he and Malkovich. But Malkovich plays. He was nominated for an Academy Award for it. He plays this really cool, funny in a way, and there's humor even in it. But he's just a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah.
And so we're a couple of duck hunters, and he's actually made his own gun that he's going to use to kill the president with.
So it doesn't get picked up with a radar detector.
Exactly.
Right?
So he can go through at the airport, and the bullet he puts in a rabbit foot, and it's just cool. But the gun was a plastic gun, and it was actually a very cool gun. And I regret to this day that I didn't. So anyway, what happens is,
what do you regret?
Where's that I didn't ask the prop guys. The moral of this story is always ask for the prop. So because flash forward to 20 years later, I was in Las Vegas, and this guy recognizes me at Caesar's Palace in like a memorabilia place.
Yeah.
He goes, "You're the guy from The Line of Fire." He goes, "Would you sign your picture?" So they had my picture in the gun in this frame, and I was gonna buy it. I go, $10,000.
What?
Yeah. But
you didn't buy that?
Should have.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're a couple of duck hunters, and then he. In case you haven't seen it, I don't want spoiler alert, but we're in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong guy.
Wait, let's go back to that audition. So when you went in, I'm sure your heart was pounding knowing that you were about to go off book, right?
Yeah.
Did you do it just one time, or did they go, "Okay, Robert, that was good, but now let's do it with the right dialogue"? Did they ever say anything about you changing it up?
No.
How many times did you do it?
A couple. And in fact, when we rehearsed it, I remember this.
Who's we?
We filmed it in Washington, D.C.
Oh, I see. When you're filming it.
John Malkovich and Wolfgang Peterson, who I ended up working with again on Air Force One.
Right.
But we're sitting there, and so I'm thinking, well, they must have liked what I said. So we're rehearsing the scene, and Wolfgang goes, "You know the writer is right behind you." And I said, "Yeah, I'm waiting for him to hit me on the head." And the writer goes, No, I love it. So that was cool.
That is really cool that you're just not in it, but you added to it.
Yeah. Well, it's risky, and and I've heard casting directors, and I remember I read for Wyatt Earp, and I remember I tried to give that a little Oklahoma, a little spin on it, and the cast director stopped me. She goes, "You know that Lawrence Kasdan wrote this, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So why don't we just stick with the script?
Yeah, because 99% of the time they want it word perfect.
Especially in TV, I think.
Yeah.
But in features, and you and I have done so many commercials. Commercials, I would say I've written, I don't know how many commercials that I know that I've written half the dialogue.
Robert, let me ask you this, because we're going to go every direction here.
Yeah.
But let me start with this direction. When I was looking at your IMDb page, I've always known you to be a working actor. You do a lot of movies, right? Here's the way I've seen it in Hollywood. Either people do a lot of TV or a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Why do you think you've done more movies than TV? Like, how come you're not being hired for TV jobs?
One word.
What?
Agent.
Agent.
So for me, I have over the years, and I've made a living at it. Knock on wood, for almost 30 years now. But on the TV side, I never had an agent that got me into the room. So
even though you have a resume with Spielberg, how many times have you worked with Spielberg?
Twice.
Lincoln, and what was the other movie?
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can, and you don't have a good agent. Okay, go on. Continue on what you were saying.
So I've been so fortunate, and I really do feel fortunate that I've had people that I've worked with over the years repeatedly, whether it's a director, a producer, or casting directors, but who would bring me in. And so, but that was almost exclusively on the feature side. The TV that I've done, and I've done some television, but that's also been because I either knew a writer or I knew somebody who knew my work or was a friend and said, hey, let's get you in for, like I did Sex and the City, Cindy Shupak, a great writer, producer, director, and I've done some in Everwood. I did.
Okay, but you're saying it's because you knew these people, but really what it means is your hustle, right? I mean, you weren't just sitting at home doing nothing and the phone rings. You had to put some work into this, right, to get those jobs?
To say the least, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your hustle? Like, tell me how you hustle. Do you like read Variety and see that they're casting something and you go, all right, who do I know on that? Let me reach out to them. How are you doing that?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it used to be, back in the day, you would follow the trade. You'd follow Hollywood Reporter and Variety.
It was so fun to get those, get them every day.
Well, also, if not every day, you at least got them on the days where they had in the trades, like it was like Tuesday's Reporter and Friday's Variety would have the films in pre-production.
Yes. So I loved looking at that.
And you look at it and you go, okay, I know so-and-so who's producing this, or I've worked with so-and-so who's directing this, or writing, or whatever. But the bad news was a lot of times you would call in and it'd be, you know, a Girl Scout film or something, and they go, dude, there's nothing in this for you.
Right.
So you had to at least explore the possibility. But that, in answer to your question, that was part of my hustle, is that I would try to keep track of who was doing what films at different times, and I still do that today. But not with Variety and Reporter. I just kind of, through either word of mouth or through any way that I can, really.
Tell me this: is your hustle still as strong as it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think it is, because I still, I love doing what we do.
It is fun, right?
So I think, and I'm also trying to make more of my own films. So part of my hustle now is put into making my own films and very self-indulgently acting in my own films. Sure. But it's what I think more and more actors are doing and having success with, is doing their own stuff. From the Ben Stillers to the whoever.
What was it like working with Spielberg the very first time? Were you scared? What was it like the night before, first of all? Knowing you're working with the dude, the man of Hollywood.
Well, one thing, and there's a documentary about him right now that he talks about how he likes to be kind of off his game or not really, or trying to figure things out, and under pressure. So I will say this: I was excited.
Okay.
Number one, and then and also to work with Tom Hanks, and but I think the thing that I was surprised was that he was still figuring it out. I had him on such a pedestal that I thought he would just snap his fingers and everything would happen. But he was kind of finding his way. And for me, having directed a little bit, I was going, wow, that's amazing. And especially because it was in contrast, the most relaxed director that I've ever seen is Steven Soderbergh.
Oh.
I worked on Ocean's 11.
Yes, you did. I loved you. I loved seeing you in that movie.
And I never saw that guy sweat a bead. Whereas Spielberg, it was interesting. I felt like it was kind of cool to see, and also know what the. And I will say I had a wonderful experience on Catch Me If You Can, in that I was in the makeup trailer sitting with Tom Hanks. It was just one of those times where you and the makeup artist hadn't seen. Have I told you this story?
No, I know.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny because I got to tell Spielberg the story later. So anyway, we're on the makeup trailer. The makeup artist. This is right after 9/11 too. But the makeup artist hadn't seen the Academy Awards. So I'm sitting there watching the Academy Awards in the makeup trailer with Tom Hanks. I'm thinking, this is pretty cool.
I would love that.
Because I'm just trying to make a laugh.
Sure.
And then Spielberg comes on the trailer. So now the three of us are about as close as we are right now watching the Academy Awards. I'm thinking, this is unreal. So for like 10 minutes, I was hearing what they had to say, and I was, joking around. And then so on Lincoln, I had one day where most of the time with Spielberg on Lincoln, I was just part of the Senate. And so we were all, it was a big, but I had one scene with James Spader where I got to talk with Spielberg just one-on-one for a while, for a couple hours. Or not, maybe not a couple hours, but for a while.
Sure.
So I told him that story. And he said he remembered it, but
okay.
He didn't.
Well, tell me about how you got Lincoln. Did you use a connection like, hey, I was on one of his other films? Like, let me know how that worked out.
Lincoln is another example of like a Line of Fire that was from an assistant director friend of mine. The assistant director on Lincoln also got my stuff to him.
Yeah, okay, did you ask him to get your stuff to him?
Absolutely. Yeah, so
that's what I want to know. Tell me what you did. You called him, you emailed him, how'd you do this?
Well, you know what? He might have even actually reached out to me.
It makes for a better story if you do it the other way around.
You're right.
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, if they didn't approach me, I would have, knowing that they were. I think I did approach them, and I said, and this is actually kind of funny because it was sort of a left-handed slam in a way, but on the day, Spielberg came around and said hi to everybody. And so when he came by to say hi to me, I just said, I just want to tell you I'm honored to be here, and I work with you on Catch Me If You Can. He goes, I know. He goes, that's why you're here. But I didn't think he remembered me.
Okay, do you think he really thought that, or is that just Hollywood talk?
It was pretty pointed.
Dang, dude, that's awesome. I'm going to take it as he really knew that, because seriously, Robert, you don't meet you and forget who you are, because you bring a different style to Hollywood. That's the reason why I've always liked you. Let me tell you this. So I think you and I did a HBO commercial together downtown a long time ago.
Wait, was that the Bette Midler thing?
Yes.
That was the longest shoot I've ever had. That was right before things. That was like a 20-hour shoot.
I believe it was Charles Whitmire.
Yeah. Yep. God, that's a good memory.
Yeah.
That's what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was.
Okay, so let me say.
Put my hat on that?
Yeah, okay. Wait, because listen, we only have 3 minutes, but we're going to reveal something. Okay. Look what he brought to wear. Look at this.
Yeah. I know.
Look at that.
I know one of the other guys already did it, but when I saw this silver bell, I mean
that is awesome. Dang, dude, you look good in that hat, man.
Got this in Wyoming.
I like that. Okay, we're going to start winding down, unfortunately, because time goes by so fast.
It really does.
Tell me this. Tell a person out there whose phone's not ringing and they need to get out there and hustle. Give me some pointers so I can tell these guys.
The best thing that I can say is that I used to see...
And by the way, he's got over 140 IMDb credits, so he knows what he's talking about. Go ahead.
I used to see directors or producers who were friends of mine, and I'd say why didn't you? No, they'd say to me, they'd say, Robert, you should have been in my last film. You should have. And I'd say, dude, I know you. Why are you saying that to me? Why are you killing me that? It's because they didn't think of me. And I know from being on the other side of the table, on the things that I've directed or produced, I will tell my closest friends, call me, remind me, because you have to. Your head is spinning. You're getting calls from people in 4th grade that now want to act, and you just can't remember everybody.
Yeah.
So now, where I used to get really disappointed and upset, I understand it. So I think the advice I would give it is that in whatever way you can, obviously social media is the big thing now, but
who's the last person you reached out to bug?
Well, that's a great question, because here's something that I was so happy to get a call from a guy named Tom McCarthy. And Tom McCarthy, I produced a movie that I'm probably going to post a Throwback Thursday on called Certain Guys. I sold it to HBO, but I produced it with one of the. But Tom McCarthy was one of the other actors, and Tom has gone on to win the Best Picture Academy Award for Spotlight.
Wow.
And so he's one of the most talented writer, director, actors of anybody I know. And recently he called me out of the blue about his next film, and I hope to work with him on it. But I will say I've tried to keep in touch with him over the years, and as I've gone to I tried to raise money for his first film, which was The Station Agent.
Okay, yeah.
Great film. It's kind of what made, for the record, kind of what made Peter Dinklage at least a star in some ways, way before Game of Thrones. And that was Tom. Tom McCarthy. I can't say enough great things about him. But that's one example of somebody that I hope to continue to work with, and but I think the key is, in whatever way you can, just to remind people you're out there, and whether it's doing theater or doing,
Okay, I got 2 more questions for you. How many times have you almost quit this business? Wait, don't answer that question yet. Okay. Answer this question first. How many times have you thought, okay, this is it, I'm about to make it? This is the one that's going...
Okay, the first question I can answer.
Go ahead.
At least a couple, including Line of Fire. Because Line of Fire was... But also Make It has kind of a nebulous thing.
I know.
But I will say this.
Because in my book, you've already made it.
Here's the thing that I'll say. My dad said to me when someone was giving me a hard time, just before I moved out here, some friend of his who I really looked up to, the guy kind of reminded me of Clint Eastwood, and he said he goes, oh, you're gonna be a big star, big whatever. My dad goes, I think he just wants to make a living at it, and it was the coolest thing he could have said, because it kind of stopped the guy in his tracks. And so for me, after Line of Fire, or really after Chaplin and Wilder Napalm, I'd said, okay, I'm going to make a living. So I've had no other job other than acting for, say almost 30 years. So
that's fantastic.
So that for me was in a way making it. But as far as like, if you're talking about being a star or being more of a known guy, other than what you and I go through, which I think I know you from something. I don't. A couple of times I felt like I might get. Some of it was from commercials too.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but. And also, I think my first short film had a lot of success, and I signed the CAA,
Tell me, yeah.
CAA, and then I got the write up in Variety and all that. And you think, okay, now I'm here we go.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how it's the things that you don't think are going to be something are the ones that are bigger than the things that you think are going to be the thing?
Yeah. Well, in that film too, this is kind of funny because it made the shortlist for the Academy Award, and so I had at least one night where I was waiting to see if I was nominated for Academy Award. And it's kind of like waking up Christmas Day and you didn't get the bike.
Right.
Like, oh. But I will say, at least Variety prints up the final 10 for the Academy Award, so I was happy just to have that recognition. But I've never, in answer to your first question, I don't think I've ever really had a serious time where I said, you know what, I'm out of this business. I'm out.
Is there a question that I can ask you that you always like you rehearse in the shower being interviewed with, and like, oh, well, let me answer that question for you there, Sally? Like just some question you want me to ask you?
I guess what tree, if I were to be, what tree would I be? No,
okay.
Not that?
No, not that one. Because you told me about the tree all night long last night. I don't want to hear it. Okay. Listen, you got anything else?
A question?
Here's the deal. This is the sad part about it. It's coming to an end right now. But I feel like we're leaving them wanting more, because I want more. So this is a good way to end it. So Robert, Bobby, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you.
Will you do me a favor?
Portable Clint.
Yeah, say goodbye.
Bye.